about Elizabethan age? See, you have 3 dots on your screen and there is one option of raise your hand. So you can raise your hand if you want to answer. Kajal, Dhara. When Elizabethan age started, you can unmute yourself and you can answer. Yes, okay. Yes, Kajal. Okay, don't worry. You just mute yourself again. And I'm going to give you the idea about Elizabethan age. So pay attention. The Elizabethan age. Whichever points you find that you want to write down, you can. Shakespeare lived during a remarkable period of English history, a time of relative political stability that followed and preceded eras of extensive upheaval. This is the age, if we see in the context of literature, then Shakespeare lived during this time, right? And Elizabeth first became the Queen of England in 1558, 6 years before Shakespeare's birth. So if we see politically, then Queen Elizabeth I ruled England during this time, and she reigned for 45 years. So during her 45-year reign, London became a cultural and commercial center where learning and literature thrived. It was the time that everything was in bloom. Everything was flourishing, whether it was art, whether it was science, whether it was polity, whether it was religion, everything was blooming. So London became a cultural and commercial center where learning and literature thrived. Earlier, in the field of art and literature, people did not consider it very much serious. Actors also were not taken very much seriously. But this was the age, this was the time when literature also flourished. When Queen Elizabeth ascended to the throne, there were violent clashes throughout Europe. Protestant and Catholic leaders. This is the thing related to religion. That when Elizabeth, the Queen, Elizabeth I, came to the throne, there were clashes in the religion, Catholic and Protestant. You might have studied this in your sociology when you were in school about Catholics and Protestant. Though Elizabeth honored many of the Protestant edicts of her late father, King Henry VIII, she made significant rebellion. When compromise was not possible, she was an exacting and determined leader who did not shy away from conflict. The naval defeat commercial power in the Western world. So Queen Elizabeth was the queen the kingdom beautifully. She was very much there to take decisions. And with the naval defeat of Spanish Armada in 1588. In 1588, England defeated Spain and England was firmly established as a leading military and commercial power in the Western world. The person you are watching on the screen is Queen Elizabeth herself. You can see the Queen Elizabeth on the screen. And in 1588, under her rule only, the England won the battle and it became very much powerful in the military and commercial power in the Western world. So Queen Elizabeth also recognized the importance of the arts to the life and legacy of her nation. It was not so that she was only giving importance to religion or polity. She had given importance to arts, to the life and legacy of her nation. She gave importance to the art and to the artist. She herself was fond of theatre, and many of England's greatest playwrights were active during her reign, including Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, and William Shakespeare. So at that time, England's greatest playwrights were in there during her reign only, means when she was ruling England. And these great writers are Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, William Shakespeare. And with her permission, professional theatres were built in England for the first time, attracting 15,000 theatre goers per week in London, a city of 1,50,000 to 2,50,000. See, there were only at that time 1,50,000 to 2,50,000 public were there, and from there 10% means 15,000 people were theatre going. Means they were also interested in going to theatre. So 10% of people were going to theatre. Elizabethan time is very important in literature. I just stopped my screen because I don't want the lecture to be boring. I'll go there again. I'll go to screen again. But you must know that sorry. Actually, at that time, there was nothing for people to passing their time. They could not pass time as us, because we have mobile phones, we have laptops, we have TV, and we have so many other things that we can pass time with it. But at that time, people did not have such things, right? So in the afternoon, they wanted something to pass their time. So people started going to theaters, and at that time these plays were of 2 to 3 hours. people used to sit for 2 to 3 hours there in the theater, and they watch, or rather they enjoyed watching this plays. It was their sole time pass. Sole means the only time pass in their free time. And nowadays we are not introduced very much to theaters, or we are not interested that much in theaters, is because we have many other activities. People have many other activities, so people are not interested that much in plays or reading, because they are getting another things, right? That is the one thing, that in Elizabethan time, she is the queen of luck. She is the queen of work also, and she is the queen of luck also. That she got such major important writers in her age, because you have just given your 2 years in English literature, and no student will be there who does not know the name of William Shakespeare, right? Or rather Marlowe also. So if you know their name, you know Shakespeare's name, you know Marlowe's name, they belong to the age of Queen Elizabeth. So she is such a lucky queen that she got such writers during her age. So I am again going in my slide. So we are talking about there were 15,000 theatre goers per week in London. Upon the death of Elizabeth, King James first rose to power in England. This is the thing, after the death of Queen Elizabeth. Afterwards, King James I came as a ruler in England. He was a writer himself, and he displayed a great love of learning, particularly theatre. At the King's invitation, Shakespeare's theatre company, Lord Chamberlain's men, became known as the King's Men. See, here you came to know about the name of the Shakespeare's theatre company. The name is Lord Chamberlain's Men, and later on it came to be known as King's Men, because the name of the king is King James. So they started to be known as King's Men, and they produced new works under his patron. King James also commissioned the translation of the Bible from Latin into English. He started the translation of Bible. Bible earlier was in Latin only, and then he started translation into English, so that it might be more readily available to those who had not studied the language of the educated class. Latin and Greek was the language of educated class. So, if it is translated into English, any normal person also can be, they also can read. So, it completed in 1611 by a team of scholars and monks. Monks means the person who are related to church. The King James Version of the Bible has become the best-selling and arguably the most influential book in the world. In 1611, the version of the Bible which came, it became best-selling. When it came into English, people started buying it, and people were very much interested into knowing their religion. Earlier, when it was in Latin and Greek, they were not able to read. So now it is available in their mother tongue. Their mother tongue was English, so they were able to read the Bible. This is the picture of Holy Bible, which is translated by King James. Now we are not going deep into King James time, but we are again coming to Elizabethan age. What is the scenario of religion during the age of Elizabeth? Religion was central to the society for which Shakespeare wrote. Anywhere in any age, religion plays important role. Religion is very much there in center during this time also. And Shakespeare wrote for that purpose also. He also has given importance to religion in his writing. Queen Elizabeth made attendance at Church of England services mandatory. See, understand this thing. This is very much important to have religion in the blood, right? So, Queen Elizabeth made attendance at Church of England service mandatory. So it was compulsory for all Christians to come to the church daily, and there they just take attendance also. As in college, we take your attendance that rather the student is present or not. It was taken for normal people that whether they are coming to church or not. It was not so that it was normally mandatory. People who did not attend for any reason except illness were punished with fines. People who could not come to church without any reason, they were fined. They had to pay money. They had to give some money for that. Well, it was not a crime to be Catholic in Elizabethan England. There was no legal way for Catholics to practice their faith. There were Catholic and Protestant churches during that time. So it was not a crime to be Catholic, but there was nothing to practice for them. Means there was not a church for Catholic Christians. So it was illegal to hold or to attend a mass. So they could not gather in a mass. Catholic people could not gather in a mass. So powerful people were less likely to be punished than others. It happens in every age. Powerful people were not punished. Means it was not so that they were not punished, but they were less likely to be punished. Elizabethan policy allowed freedom of belief as long as English subject did not openly flout the law or encourage sedition. Elizabethan policy allowed freedom of belief. They means people can believe in anything. So it was allowed in that time also. So this is the scenario of religion in Elizabethan age, that it was mandatory, compulsory for Christians to attend a church every day. That should be there. That should be done in Hinduism also. I believe that people should be gathered at one place, and there should be given classes on what is Bhagavad Gita. So that thing from this age, from Elizabethan age, should be learned at any age. Very first, yes, any question? So that belong to religion. Now another thing is education. What is the scenario of education in Elizabethan age? Boys were educated to be literate member of society. See, the men, boys at the time, they were educated. Teaching techniques relied heavily on memorization and recitation. This happens also in every age. Who has unmuted themselves? Yes, any question? I am again. Just make full mute. So boys were studying, and memorization and recitation, right? Means as we say Gokhanpatti, it was also at that time. The language of literacy throughout Europe was Latin, and students were expected to be proficient in it. At that time, the language of literacy there was Latin. The boys, they were studying in Latin, and they must be fluent in that. Proficiency in Latin should be there. Boys started grammar school at the age of 6 or 7. In the lower grader, boys studied Latin grammar and vocabulary. So as we people put children in the school in at the age of 6 and 7, they also put their children at grammar school in 6 or 7 at the lower grades. And boys studied Latin grammar and vocabulary. There they were taught Latin grammar and vocabulary. In the upper grades, they read the poetry and prose of writers such as Ovid, Martial, and Catullus. In the upper grades, means in the upper classes, they were studied poetry and prose of the writers, of the Latin writers, and the writers are Ovid, Martial, and Catullus. From schooling was not encouraged for girls unless they were the children of nobility. This is the matter of 16th century. So girls were not encouraged to study. All the classes girls, means middle class, lower class girls, they were not encouraged to study. Only the girls who belonged to noble class, they just went to school. Young girls from wealthy families were often placed in the household of acquaintances where they would learn to read, write, keep accounts, and manage a household or estates. Wealthy families would put their girls in some acquaintances, means the persons whom they know, and there the girl, those girl would learn to read, write, they would learn to keep account, manage a household or estate. So formal education was given to boys and girls were not formally educated at that time. This is the scenario. You must remember that memorization and recitation was the heavily relied on this time, and Latin was the language which the students had to learn, and they were expected to be proficient in it. So these are the points related to education in the Elizabethan age, right? So we studied religion in Elizabethan age, education in the Elizabethan age, and now Elizabethan theatre, because we are more concerned with literature rather than the more deep history. So we are coming to Elizabethan theatre. Theatre was central to Elizabethan social life. As I told you, the people had no other activity for passing their time or for entertainment. So theatre was center for Elizabethan social life, because no social sites were there at the time, no mobiles were there. Playwrights and poets were among the leading artists of the day. Towards the end of 16th century, the popularity of plays written by scholars such as Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, John Lilly, and Thomas Lodge led to a building of theatres and to the development of companies of actors, both professionals and amateur. In your FY, you have learned university wits, right? And these are those university wits only. They belong to Elizabethan age. And because of their plays, people became interested in plays and development of companies of actors, both professional and amateur. Here one word is there, amateur. Amateur means the person who is not yet professional, but he is learning that profession, that is called amateur. These companies of players travel throughout England, generally performing in London in the winter and spring and navigating neglected roads throughout the English countryside during the summer. So these people, these companies, these theater companies, that players, that actors, they perform their art in London in winter and spring and navigated in other roads throughout the English countryside during the summertime. So here you can see the globe. The picture which you are seeing, that is the globe. Globe is the name of the theater which is still there in England. Now it is renovated. It is not the same. You can search it in internet that now the scenario of globe is very much changed. And today also there plays are being enacted. Yes. professional companies were also retained for the private entertainment of English aristocracy. Professional companies of theatre were there who entertain, who provide entertainment for English aristocracy. Aristocracy means the upper class. In Gujarati, the word for aristocracy is Garbha Shrimant. The people who are very rich from the birth, they are known as aristocrat. In spite of its popularity, the Elizabethan theatre attracted criticism, censorship, and scorn from some sectors of English society. See, every coin has two sides. When some popular things are there, famous things are there, some negative things are bound to be there. So criticism also there, censorship was also there, and they also got some scorn from some sectors of English society. So this thing again happened there. The plays were often coarse and boisterous, and playwrights and actors belonged to a bohemian class. At that time, the profession of acting was not famous. Means people of upper class did not involve themselves in this field of acting. So Puritan leaders and officers of the Church of England considered actors to be questionable character, and they criticized playwrights for using the stage to disseminate their irrelevant opinions. Actually, Puritan leaders, they belong to church. What they said that the character of these actors are questionable. They also criticized the writers, and they also feared the overcrowded theater spaces might lead to the spread of disease. They said that so many people are coming here, the people are coming in thousands of numbers, so some disease may spread because of this. So they were not in the favor of gathering of people for this kind of plays. At times throughout the 16th century, Parliament censored plays for profanity, heresy, or politics. But Queen Elizabeth and her later King James offered protection that ultimately allowed the theatres to survive. So many were there who did not want theatres to run, but these Queen Elizabeth and King James, they allowed this theatre to survive. And because of them, still theatre survived in the England. Acting was not considered an appropriate profession for women in the Elizabethan era. Ladies were not allowed to act in the play. And even into the 17th century, acting companies consisted of men with young boys playing the female roles instead of clothing reflecting the station of their character. Elizabethan actors wore lavish costume consistent with upper class dress. What happened? Because ladies were not allowed to play the roles, the male character, they will play the role of female. And they will wear dresses like ladies, and they will perform. So in contrast, stage scenery was minimal, perhaps consisting solely of painted panels placed upstage. Here in the picture, you can see the theater of that time. See, it is round. In the between, in the middle, the play is going to be played, and the audience is sitting in the round. Here, logic of that is also given. Elizabethan theatre were makeshift, dirty and loud, but they attracted audience as large as 3,000 from all social classes. It was not that much attractive, the stage, or rather the upstage, that was not that much attractive. But it attracted 3,000 people from all the classes. Performances were usually given in the afternoons because at that time people were comparatively free. So lasting 2 to 3 hours. The play lasted for 2 to 3 hours. As in both ancient and contemporary theatres, each section of the theatre bore a different price of admission, with the lowest price in the pit below stage level, where patrons stood to watch the play. As in movie, tickets are different from different places. In the play also, different tickets were there for different places. Most performance spaces were arranged in the round. The people were seated in the round like this, giving spectators the opportunity to watch both the play and the behavior of other spectators. They were allowed to watch the play as well as the spectators and their behaviors. So this is the things related to Elizabethan age. I'm just again in a rapid way showing you the slides. If you have not taken this slide screenshot, you can have the Elizabethan age, the Queen Elizabeth herself. This is King James, the ruler who ruled after Queen Elizabeth. This is the Holy Bible translated by King James. This is the slide of religion in the Elizabethan age. What was the scenario of religion during the Elizabethan age? This is the scenario of education in Elizabethan age. Their boys were allowed to study, while girls were not formally allowed to study at that time. Lower or middle class girl could not study. They had to attend only household works. And this is Elizabethan theater. The theater in the picture is the Globe Theater. Here in the picture, you can see that the male person is wearing the cloth of a lady and he is performing the role of a lady. And this is the theater of that time, which is round in shape. Here the person is acting and others, the people sitting, are spectators. So this was the presentation on Elizabethan age. As you people have to study Elizabethan to neoclassical age. So before studying the writers, you must know the age. So I have tried to given you the idea, right? Now, it is the responsibility of you people to study Elizabethan age by your part. And if any question related to today's lecture, you can raise your hand or you can ask, you can unmute yourself and you can ask. Anyone? Later on, if you find any question in the next lecture, I'll solve it. And I did not make only points in the slide. I just allowed you to read my whole slide because perhaps if you don't find any problem with my voice or anything, any confusory thing, then you can watch it in your screen. That's why I allowed to read all the important matters, right? And whatever question, any confusion, you can ask, you can just tell. This is very much experimental thing for you people and us. So there will be trouble for everyone, I guess. So if you share, then it can be solved. See, we don't mean this to be one-way communication. At the end of the session, I need you people to participate and just tell me about the lecture. If there is no any question, we will call this a day and I'm going to end the session. Okay. So you also just press the red button on your screen and we will call this a day. So thank you everyone.